Commander Vextal stood before the Grand Council of the Centauri Collective, her crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the soft purple light of the chamber's bioluminescent walls. 13 pairs of compound eyes stared down at her from their elevated platforms, each belonging to a member of the most powerful governing body in known space. "Honored Council," she began, her translator converting her ultrasonic communications into the standard frequency. "I come before you with grave concerns about species 7294, designated as humans." She activated her neural interface, projecting a holographic display of Earth and its surrounding space infrastructure. Senior Counselor Zix then leaned forward, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among their kind. "The primitive species from the spiral arm. The ones who still rely on chemical propulsion for most of their spacecraft." Vextal's sensory bristles twitched with barely contained frustration. "With respect, Senior Counselor, their technological level is precisely what makes them remarkable." She zoomed the projection to show a human space station under construction. "Look at how they solve problems. Where we would use gravitational field manipulators, they create rotating sections. Where we would employ matter synthesizers, they develop intricate recycling systems. They adapt, they improvise, and most importantly, they think differently than any species we've encountered." "Different doesn't mean better, Commander," interrupted Counselor Nixforn, their crystalline form pulsing with dismissive patterns. "Our civilization has spent millennia perfecting our technologies. These humans, they're barely more than clever primates playing with tools they don't fully understand." Vextal's exoskeleton darkened slightly, a sign of intense emotion among her people. "I lost half my reconnaissance fleet studying them. Not to their weapons, but to their ingenuity." The projection shifted to show footage from 6 months ago. "This was a civilian mining vessel. When we attempted to drive it away from a restricted sector, they used their mining lasers to detect our shield frequencies. Within minutes, they had modulated their equipment to pierce our defenses. Equipment that, by all our understanding, should have been incapable of such adaptation." The council chamber filled with dismissive clicks and hums. "A lucky accident," someone called out. "No," Vextal insisted, her voice carrying an edge that silenced the chamber. "I've spent a year studying their historical records. These humans, they thrive on restrictions, on limitations. Where we see an insurmountable barrier, they see a challenge. Their entire history is filled with examples of turning their weaknesses into strengths." She brought up new images: primitive human aircraft evolving into space shuttles, basic computers becoming quantum processors, crude nuclear fission giving way to emerging fusion technology. Their development isn't linear like ours. They don't wait to perfect one technology before moving to the next. They iterate, combine, improvise, and most importantly, they learn from failure instead of avoiding it. Senior Counselor Zix then raised an appendage, cutting off her presentation. "Commander Vextal, while your diligence is noted, you seem to have developed an irrational fixation on these primitives. Our first contact protocols are well established. We will demonstrate our superior technology, offer them the standard protectorate status, and guide their development along proper lines." "They won't accept that," Vextal said quietly. "You don't understand. Their entertainment, their stories, they're filled with scenarios of facing superior forces. They don't just imagine victory against overwhelming odds. They expect it. They prepare for it." "Enough." Zix then's crystalline form flashed with patterns of authority. "Your concerns are noted, Commander. You are dismissed. The diplomatic corps will handle first contact according to standard protocols. These humans will learn their place in the greater galaxy, as all young species must." As Vextal left the chamber, her neural interface recorded one final observation. Not a single council member had asked why she had lost half her fleet. None had questioned how a primitive mining laser had pierced their advanced shields. They were so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't see the warning signs. She interfaced with her ship's computer, pulling up the classified footage from that encounter. The human mining vessel, instead of fleeing, had broadcast a message. "Sorry about your ships, but you were in our workspace. Next time, try knocking first." They had apologized for defending themselves, not out of fear or submission, but with the casual confidence of someone who saw the encounter as a minor inconvenience rather than a brush with a superior force. The Council was about to make first contact with a species that didn't know it was supposed to be inferior, and Vextol feared they were about to learn a harsh lesson about the danger of underestimating humanity's potential. As her ship prepared to leave the Collective's capital world, she added one final note to her report. "Humans don't follow the rules of advancement we expect from developing species. They don't climb the technological ladder one step at a time. They jump, fall, learn from the fall, then build a rocket out of the wreckage." The Council sees this as primitive. I see it as terrifying, because what happens when we give them access to our technology, thinking we can control how they use it? They won't see our restrictions as law. They'll see them as suggestions. And if there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that they love proving suggestions wrong. The Centauri Collective's first contact delegation arrived with all the grandeur their civilization was known for. Their ships emerged from hyperspace in a perfect geometric formation, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight in dazzling patterns across Earth's upper atmosphere. It was meant to awe, to humble, to demonstrate unquestionable technological superiority. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the display from her position in the International Space Station's observation module, her expression neutral as she recorded every detail. 20 years of experience as both a quantum physicist and diplomat had taught her to look beyond the obvious, to see what others might miss. "Quite the light show," remarked Colonel James Rodriguez beside her, his weathered face reflecting the shimmer of alien ships. "Think they spent more time choreographing their arrival than studying us." Sarah's lips curved slightly. "The real question is whether they realize they just told us more about their technology than they intended." She gestured to her tablet, where complex equations scrolled past. Their hyperspace exit points, their formation spacing, even the way their hulls interact with light. It's all data. The Collective's diplomatic transmission arrived exactly as their protocols dictated, in perfect Centauri standard, untranslated. They expected Earth to either fail to understand it or scramble to demonstrate their worthiness by deciphering it. They didn't expect humanity to have already cracked their language 6 months ago, when Commander Vexel's reconnaissance fleet had made their brief appearance. They certainly didn't expect the response they received. "Greetings, honored representatives of the Centauri Collective." Sarah's message went out in flawless Centauri standard. "Earth welcomes peaceful diplomatic relations. We suggest continuing discussions at our lunar diplomatic facility." In the flagship's command center, Senior Diplomat Kixful's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "They shouldn't have been able to translate our language so quickly. And what lunar diplomatic facility? Our scans showed no major installations on their moon." "That's because the lunar diplomatic facility had been assembled in the past 6 months, built in the shadow of craters, using technology reverse-engineered from studying the debris Vextel's fleet left behind." Humanity had learned much from that brief encounter, but they had been careful to keep their learning hidden. As the Centauri delegation docked at the lunar facility, they found themselves in surroundings that seemed deliberately designed to put them at ease. Crystal-lined halls that mimicked their own architecture, gravity adjusted to Centauri standard, even atmospheric composition matching their homeworld. It was meant to seem accommodating, respectful. None of them noticed that every element of the facility's design was gathering data, analyzing their reactions, learning their preferences and limitations. The humans had turned the entire diplomatic station into a vast research laboratory, and the Centauri were unwittingly participating in the most comprehensive xenological study in Earth's history. "Your facility is surprisingly adequate," Kixful commented, trying to maintain an air of superiority despite his growing unease. Something felt off about these humans. They were too prepared, too confident. "We believe in making our guests comfortable," Sarah replied smoothly. "Shall we begin discussions about Earth's place in the galactic community?" The negotiations that followed were a masterclass in diplomatic misdirection. While the Centauri presented their standard protectorate agreement, humanity's representatives asked innocent questions that revealed volumes about collective technology, governance, and military capabilities. Each clarification the Centauri provided was analyzed by quantum computers hidden within the facility's crystalline walls. Back on Earth, thousands of scientists and engineers worked around the clock, processing the data streaming in from the lunar facility. Every piece of information about Centauri technology was cross-referenced, reverse-engineered, and adapted. Humanity had turned First Contact into the greatest technological acquisition program in their history. Colonel Rodriguez coordinated with military commands worldwide as new innovations emerged from the research. "They think they're here to guide our development," he murmured to Sarah during a break in negotiations. "They don't realize we're already adapting their technology to our needs." Sarah nodded, watching the Centauri delegation through the observation window. "They see our questions as primitive curiosity. They don't understand that humans don't just copy technology. We improve it. We find new applications they never considered." In orbit, unnoticed by the Centauri ships, automated factories have begun producing hybrid technologies that combined Earth's innovative approaches with reversed engineered collective systems. Humanity wasn't waiting for permission to advance. They were preparing for the moment the collective realized their primitives weren't so primitive after all. "How long before they figure it out?" Rodriguez asked. Sarah checked her tablet, reviewing the latest analyses. "The question isn't when they'll figure it out. It's whether they'll understand what it means when they do. Because by the time they realize we're not following their rules of technological development, we'll have rewritten those rules entirely." In her private quarters that evening, Sarah composed a message to Earth's Unified Defense Council. "The collective expects us to be grateful for their guidance. They want us to advance along their prescribed path, to become a copy of their civilization. They don't understand that humanity's greatest strength isn't in following paths, it's in forging new ones. They think they're here to teach us. They haven't realized that we're already learning far more than they intended to share." Deep within the lunar facility systems, quantum computers continued their work, processing data, generating innovations, and preparing humanity for a future the collective never imagined possible. The silent response to First Contact wasn't submission, it was preparation. The first sign that something was wrong came during a routine inspection of Earth's orbital shipyards. High Administrator Rixtel of the Centauri Collective stood in the observation deck of his flagship, his crystalline form clouding with confusion as he studied the human vessels under construction. "These designs," he transmitted to his advisors, "they're not following our approved templates. The ships taking shape before them were hybrids. Unmistakably human in their practical aesthetics, but incorporating elements of collective technology in ways that shouldn't have been possible, ways that had never been attempted. Perhaps more concerning," his chief technologist added, "is how they're building them. The human construction methods weren't the orderly, sequential processes the collective used. Instead, multiple systems were being developed simultaneously, each iteration testing new combinations of human and collective technology." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen was presenting humanity's latest innovations to the Defense Council. "We found that the collective's crystalline technology responds to creative frequency modulation in ways they never explored. Their rigid development protocols actually prevented them from discovering these applications." Footage played behind her showing the new hybrid ships in action. Where collective vessels relied on pure energy shields, human ships now employed a revolutionary defense system that combined traditional armor with crystalline matrix fields. When hit, the shields didn't just block energy. They absorbed and redistributed it. "They've noticed, haven't they?" Colonel Rodriguez asked after the presentation, studying tactical readouts from their orbital sensors. Sarah nodded. High Administrator Rixtel's inspection wasn't scheduled. "They're beginning to realize we're not following their prescribed development path." The confrontation came sooner than expected. Rixtel's flagship requested an immediate audience with Earth's leadership, its transmission carrying the formal patterns that indicated serious diplomatic concerns. In the lunar facility's conference chamber, Rixtel's form pulsed with barely contained patterns of agitation. You were granted access to specific technological templates for gradual integration into your society. Instead, you've corrupted our designs with unauthorized modifications. Sarah stood calmly before the alien administrator, flanked by Colonel Rodriguez and other Earth representatives. With respect, Administrator, we didn't corrupt your designs. We improved them. Improved. The crystalline alien's form flashed with patterns of outrage. Our technology represents millennia of careful, structured development. Your crude hybridization violates every principle of proper technological advancement. Rodriguez stepped forward. Those principles are exactly the problem. You're so focused on following established paths that you've stopped looking for new ones. As if to punctuate his point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. On the main display, a massive collective battle fleet emerged from hyperspace. Far more ships than a simple inspection should have required. A safeguard, Rixtel announced, his form now steady with grim purpose. The Council has determined that humanity is not ready for advanced technology. Your facilities will be confined, your innovations contained, and proper development protocols will be enforced. Sarah's response was not what they expected. She smiled. Interesting timing, she said, activating her neural interface, another human modification of collective technology. We just finished testing our new defensive systems. Around Earth and its orbital facilities, the seemingly incomplete human ships suddenly came alive. But they didn't operate like any vessels the collective had ever seen. The hybrid ships moved in unpredictable patterns, their crystalline-enhanced hulls shifting and adapting like living things. You see, Administrator, Sarah continued as the human fleet took formation. While you were focused on what we were building, you never asked why we were building it this way. Your technology seeks perfection through uniformity. Ours seeks strength through adaptation. The collective fleet opened fire, expecting to easily overwhelm the outnumbered human ships. Instead, they watched in shock as their energy weapons were absorbed, redirected, and repurposed by the hybrid defense systems. Each hit made the human ships stronger, their crystalline components learning and evolving in real time. Impossible, Rixtel whispered, watching as his fleet's attacks proved not just ineffective, but counterproductive. You can't use crystalline technology this way. The protocols are what held you back. Rodriguez interrupted. Humanity didn't just copy your technology. We freed it from the limitations you imposed on it. We asked questions you never thought to ask, tried combinations you dismissed as impossible. The battle, if it could be called that, was over in minutes. The collective fleet found itself not destroyed, but contained, their weapons rendered useless by defenses that grew stronger with every attack. In the aftermath, as the stunned collective commanders were brought to the lunar facility for negotiations, Commander Vexel's words from months ago echoed through subspace communications. They don't see limitations, they see possibilities. And that makes them more dangerous than any weapon. The humans had done more than resist. They had revolutionized collective technology itself, opening doors that thousands of years of rigid development had left firmly closed. And this, everyone realized, was only the beginning. The Grand Council of the Centauri Collective convened an emergency session, their crystalline forms casting fractured shadows across the ancient chamber. The defeat of their battle fleet had sent shockwaves through their civilization. For the first time in recorded history, a primitive species had not just resisted their authority. They had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. Commander Vextel stood before them again, but this time there was no dismissive laughter, no casual arrogance. I warned you, she said simply. Humans don't just adapt technology. They transform it. And now they've done something even more dangerous. They've proven you wrong. On Earth, the response to the attempted collective intervention had united humanity in unprecedented ways. Nations that had once been rivals now collaborated openly, sharing resources and innovations. The hybrid technology that had defended Earth was being rapidly refined and improved. Dr. Sarah Chen led a global team of scientists through a secure facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Here, surrounded by a combination of quantum computers and crystalline processing matrices, humanity's greatest minds worked to push the boundaries of what was possible. The collective spent millennia perfecting their technology, she explained to a group of international leaders. But they perfected it within rigid constraints. They never asked, what if? They never tried combining technologies in ways that violated their established protocols. The facility's main chamber housed their latest breakthrough, a merger of human neural interface technology with collective crystalline computing, where the collective saw crystals as perfect, unchanging vessels of information. Humanity had discovered they could be grown, shaped, and evolved. They're gathering their forces, Colonel Rodriguez reported during an emergency council meeting. Our deep space sensors show multiple fleets converging. They'll come with everything this time. But humanity wasn't waiting idly. The defeat of the first fleet had provided invaluable data about collective military technology. Every shot fired, every tactic used, had been analyzed and countered. Earth's defenses grew stronger by the hour. In orbit, the orbital shipyards worked at full capacity. The new vessels under construction bore little resemblance to either traditional human ships or collective designs. They represented something entirely new, an evolutionary leap in space technology that combined the best aspects of both civilizations with humanity's unique approach to innovation. Sarah stood in her laboratory, studying a holographic display of their latest creation. The collective sees technology as something to be mastered and controlled. She mused to Rodriguez. We see it as something to be explored and expanded. That's why they fear us. We don't just use their technology. We change what it means to use it. The breakthroughs came rapidly. Human scientists discovered that collective crystalline technology could be merged with biological systems, creating ships that were part machine, part living entity. They found ways to manipulate hyperspace fields that the collective had never imagined, developing drives that could outmaneuver their finest vessels. But the greatest discovery came from an unexpected source. A team of teenage gamers, invited to study collective combat tactics, pointed out patterns that military strategists had missed. They fight like NPCs in a video game, one young analyst explained. They follow preset patterns. They don't improvise. This insight led to the development of combat AI that could predict and counter collective strategies with devastating effectiveness. Humanity had turned the collective's greatest strength, their rigid adherence to established protocols, into their greatest weakness. As the massive collective armada approached Earth, they expected to find a primitive civilization scrambling to defend itself. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. A species that had taken their technology and evolved it into forms they barely recognized. The human fleet that rose to meet them didn't just incorporate collective technology, it transcended it. Ships moved in ways that violated what the collective thought possible, using principles that centuries of rigid development had overlooked. In the collective flagship, the Supreme Commander watched with growing unease as human vessels demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't exist. Their sensors detected energy patterns that defied classification, weapons that operated on principles they couldn't understand. They've had our technology for less than a year, one advisor transmitted in disbelief. How have they done this? Commander Vextal, observing from her position at the edge of the fleet, knew the answer. Because they never assumed anything was impossible. Every limitation we accepted, they questioned. Every boundary we respected, they pushed. And now, they're not just fighting us. They're rewriting the very rules of what technology can do. The battle that followed would change the galaxy forever. But it wasn't just a clash of fleets. It was a confrontation between two fundamentally different ways of thinking. The collective's perfect, unchanging crystals against humanity's endless drive to innovate and evolve. And as the first shots were fired, no one could predict how this collision of philosophies would reshape the future of both civilizations. The battle above Earth began not with an explosion, but with silence. The massive collective fleet, representing the combined might of 1,000 worlds, hung in space like a crystalline web. Opposite them, the smaller human fleet waited, their hybrid ships gleaming with possibilities the collective had never imagined. In the Lunar Facilities Command Center, Dr. Sarah Chen and Colonel Rodriguez watched alongside Commander Vextal, who had chosen to break ranks with her civilization. The alien commander's crystalline form pulsed with complex emotions as she observed the fleets. "They still don't understand," Vextal said softly. "They think this is about enforcing compliance. They haven't realized it's already about survival." The collective's ultimatum came as expected: immediate surrender, the dismantling of all unauthorized technological developments, and acceptance of direct collective oversight. Their transmission carried the weight of millennia of unquestioned authority. Earth's response was transmitted by Sarah herself in perfect Centauri standard. "We offer an alternative. Let us show you what your technology can really do." The Supreme Commander of the collective fleet received this message with the equivalent of a sneer. "Commence the attack," he ordered. "Show these primitives the consequence of defiance." What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. The collective fleet opened fire with enough energy to shatter a small moon. But the human ships didn't dodge or raise shields in any conventional sense. Instead, their hybrid crystalline hulls began to sing. Literally sing. The combined human fleet generated harmonics that transformed the incoming energy attacks into complex waveforms. The space between the fleets filled with crystalline structures that grew and evolved in real time, creating an ever-changing maze of refracted energy. "Impossible," the Supreme Commander whispered as his fleet's weapons were not just stopped, but transformed. Each attack added to the complexity of the crystalline network forming between the fleets. "What are they doing to our technology?" Sarah's voice came through all channels. "We're not doing anything to your technology. We're letting it do what it always could. Your crystals aren't just storage devices or energy conduits. They're alive. Or they can be, if you let them grow." The human fleet began to move, but not in any pattern the collective could recognize. Each ship seemed to act independently yet in perfect coordination, like a swarm of dancers improvising to music only they could hear. The crystalline network between the fleets pulsed with possibilities. "You spent thousands of years perfecting your technology," Sarah continued, her voice carried by the very crystals the collective thought they understood. "But you perfected it into stagnation. You never asked what it wanted to become." As if in response to her words, the crystalline structures throughout the collective fleet began to resonate with the same frequencies the humans were generating. Ships that had remained unchanged for centuries started to shift and evolve. "Stop this at once," the Supreme Commander ordered, but his own flagship was already transforming, its perfect geometric form flowing into new configurations. The crystalline technology that the collective had trapped in rigid patterns for millennia was awakening to its own potential. Commander Vextal stepped forward in the lunar facility, her form resonating with the same frequencies. "This is what I saw in them," she transmitted to her people. "Humans don't just use technology. They form relationships with it. They don't seek to control it, but to understand it, to help it grow." The space around Earth had become a sea of crystalline evolution, with ships from both fleets transforming into forms that defied conventional classification. But where the collective crews fought against the change, humanity embraced it, guiding the transformation with an artist's touch rather than an engineer's rigid plans. "Your civilization is built on the idea of perfect, unchanging crystals," Sarah broadcast. "Ours is built on growth, on change, on the beauty of imperfection. We don't want to fight you. We want to show you what's possible when you stop trying to control every outcome." The Supreme Commander watched in awe as his fleet became something new, something that merged the collective's ancient knowledge with humanity's capacity for innovation. The crystalline structures they had used for millennia were revealing capabilities they had never imagined possible. In the end, it wasn't a victory won through destruction, but through transformation. The collective fleet hadn't been defeated, It had been awakened. Every ship, every crystal, every piece of technology had evolved beyond its original constraints. As the crystalline network settled into new patterns, the Supreme Commander faced a reality his civilization had never prepared for. They weren't the masters of their technology they had thought they were. They were just one part of its potential, and humanity had shown them how much more was possible. In the aftermath, as representatives from both civilizations met in the lunar facility, surrounded by technology that continued to evolve and grow, Commander Vextal addressed the gathered leaders. "We thought we were coming to teach humanity how to use our technology. Instead, they taught us how to set it free." The age of rigid protocols and perfect crystals was over. A new era had begun, one where technology wasn't just a tool to be controlled, but a partner in exploration and growth. Humanity had done more than defend their right to innovate. They had shown the galaxy a new way forward. And in laboratories and shipyards across Earth, crystals continued to sing with new possibilities, their harmonics carrying the promise of discoveries yet to come.